Hello, everybody. Thanks for coming back from lunch. I will try to keep you awake for the next 45 minutes. And do we have a clicker? There we go. Good. So Daphne asked me to talk about digital transformation research. And I've been doing research on digital transformation since before it was a thing. We learned back in 2010 we started this. We started actually in France and then moved on from there with Capgemini and some other companies to get this research started. It was long enough ago that we would say the word digital transformation and people would laugh at us. They said, "Well, what a stupid word," right? And so things caught up eventually. So what I want to do is I want to share with you what we've learned over 9 years of work in the digital world, and hopefully some of this will be useful for you that you can take it home and be a little dangerous with the ideas. So here's what's going on with digital transformation, digital in general, is it's fast, and it's getting faster. So just for example, just to give you an idea of 18 months in the life of digital, algorithm summarizes text surprisingly well. In the technology literature, surprisingly well means that we are surprised that it even works. It doesn't mean that it's good, it just works a little bit. But then we move on, and a few months later, 7 months later, now AI is better than the average American high school student at reading text. That's pretty amazing. Now think about jobs. Where is there a job where you do a lot of reading text? How about lawyers? And computers are better than lawyers at reading non-disclosure. There's an MIT firm that does some of this, and others. Now, is the computer better at the non-disclosure forms, or is it that when you read 3 non-disclosure forms, you fall asleep, but the computer never falls asleep? We don't know, but at least the routine work, the computers are better than that. So lawyers have to find better work to do, not just the routine things. What else here? What about doctors? Now here, this thing can smell your breath and tell whether you have cancer. What does that mean for doctors? Doctors will not go away, but the diagnostics are getting better, and so that means the doctors can make better decisions, and the routine stuff might be going away. Now doctors also are very powerful, so their jobs won't go. But what about some other doctors? Here's a kind of doctor in the US that is not very powerful. It's an optometrist. And here, the computer is replacing the optometrist. It can make a diagnosis for you with no doctor involved. So even in these high-end jobs like doctoring, things are changing, right? So I tried to find a job where computers can't do it, and I found one. Computers are really bad at writing poetry. So if you are a poet, you are safe. Otherwise, the rest of us, our jobs will be changing. And as leaders of companies, also, we need to think about how our companies will be changing with these technologies moving along. Now, here's the thing. Moore's Law. Do you know Moore's Law? You've been in an MIT thing for half a day. Have you learned about Moore's Law yet? Okay. So some of you have not raised your hand. You have to know Moore's Law. You are in an MIT thing. Moore's Law says that technology doubles in power every 18 months. Every 18 months to 2 years. And we keep finding ways to say that Moore's Law will die, and Moore's Law continues. Ever since the 70s, it continues. So the thing is that that's an exponential curve, right? Every time you double, it moves up here, and people are not good at that. People think like that. So what happens is you think about this, and you miss the vertical part of this. And just think about your phones in the last 10 years, and you have an idea who could imagine that, right? Moore's Law says if technology doubles every 18 months, then every 5 years, technology is 10 times as good as it was before. Every 10 years, technology is 100 times as good as it was before. So that says if you are in the middle of launching, if you are about to launch your 5-year plan, you are 10 times out of date on the day you start. So we need to think differently, right? We need to think differently about being able to work with the technology, not to set the technology in stone and move on. Now that's Moore's Law. I want to give you George's Law. I'm trying to get this called George's Law. Nobody calls it George's Law, but I am going to keep trying, okay? Technology moves quickly, but organizations change much more slowly. It's a fundamental law of organizations. We know this. But in the digital transformation world, this is really important. It means that when we're talking about digital transformation, it's not really about the digital. It's about the transformation. It's not a technology problem. It's a leadership problem. As leaders in the organization, you should not be setting yourself up to be the best at AI, the best at mobile, the best at Internet of Things. Yes, you should be good at those. You should be the best at envisioning and driving change over and over and over again. Because if you can get your organization to have the capability to change, then all these technologies become tools that help you. If you track each technology, you build solutions that live in little silos that don't connect to each other, and you actually make it worse for you the next time you want to innovate. So in the idea of digital transformation, digital is not the problem, transformation is. It's not a technology problem, it's a leadership problem. You don't forget about the technology, you just don't focus all of your energy on it. This also means that this is not your CIO's job. This is the job of every leader in the company to push this forward with the CIO, with your head of digital. So do you understand what I mean? Okay, we're done. Goodbye. Well, let me give you some examples, okay? So we studied a lot of companies doing a lot of things. We talked to 151 leaders of $500 million in revenue or above. 151 leaders of large groups. Very few of them, a lot of them doing technology, very few doing it well. What we found was that the best companies, we call them the digital masters, they do two things. They do the digital capability, but they also do the leadership capability. The digital is making sure that this technology helps you make a better customer experience, a better operations, better business models. The leadership capability is the ability to envision, engage your people, and govern, to drive change over and over again. Now, of course, I want you to be in that top right. Not a lot of companies are there. You do not want to be in the bottom. We won't even talk about that. But what about the off diagonals? These fashionistas are interesting. They, let's see if, no, it doesn't point. Okay, the fashionistas are interesting. They are doing a lot of digital, but not a lot of leadership. They are buying every new digital thing. They're doing lots of different experiments, lots of different projects, but they don't connect them together. And as a result, they spend a lot of money, but they waste a lot of money. And they don't really move forward as fast as you think. We call them fashionistas because they're beautiful and digital on the outside. They have all the right digital outfits. There's just nothing happening up here. Okay? And there are implications for that. And then the conservatives are different. This is not a political statement. These are the ones I would talk to the CEO of a company, and the CEO would say, this digital stuff sounds like e-commerce, and I lost a lot of money on e-commerce. And I said, but you're doing e-commerce now, aren't you? Oh, yeah. But I don't want to make that mistake again. They're being too careful to avoid failure, and they are not able to innovate. And so that has implications too. So they focus so much on governance that they can't do anything that doesn't have a perfect business case. So let me give you a company that does this well, that's different. Anybody know Asian Paints? Whenever I ask an audience about Asian Paints, if you grew up in India, you know Asian Paints. And if you didn't grow up in India, you know nothing about Asian Paints. This is actually my favorite company in the whole research, with close to 1,000 companies now. My very favorite company of all of them. It's a paint company. Paint is the most boring industry in the world. I mean, to tell you how boring this is, Asian Paints doesn't even put color in the paint. They sell white paint, and then the store puts the color in. And you know how that works, right? So I figure if a boring company can do it, you can do it, right? So if you were to do Asian Paints, how do you think about it, right? Well, you know, the person comes, I couldn't find somebody buying paint, so this woman's buying a rake, but you know what's happening, right? You buy paint, you go home, they run out of things, they order something from the salesperson, the order goes to distribution, they ship, you know how this process works, right? They were doing this 13 different ways in 13 different regions of India. Why 13 regions? Because when this company started, you could not move around India, so the regions had to be there. Why 13 different ways? Because a fundamental law of organizations is if you create two units doing the same thing, you give them 2 years, they will be doing different things. It's just how it works, right? So they said, this is stupid. Why are we doing this 13 different ways in 13 different regions? Let's put an ERP system in place to standardize that process. Still 13 regions, one ERP system. And that was good. They found efficiency, but they said, what else can we do? They said, well, this is India. Let's create a call center, right? India is good at call centers. So they put in a call center, and now instead of the 20-minute conversation to order your paint here, you have a 2-minute conversation with these people. And everything else works the same. Well, that's good, but what about all these salespeople? What do you do with them? You could fire them, but they have relationships. You don't want to lose that. So what they did is they gave them mobile, and they said, your job is not to take orders. Your job is to upsell this person. And since you have more time, your job is to find new customers in your region. Half of the salespeople made it, half of the salespeople didn't. But the ones that made it, it's better. What else can we do? Well, we have data now, so let's do the service improvement all over the place, right? Let's change the way we do, improve our manufacturing. What else can we do? Well, these salespeople, they're finding a new kind of customer. It's not a retail store, it's a home improvement contractor. It's painters, and it's renovation specialists, and these kinds of people. They use a lot of paint. And so Asian Paint said, hey, instead of making you take the paint from your headquarters over to the job site, we will just deliver wherever you want that paint to be. Only a company in India could do that. The contractors really liked that. What else can we do? Well, I don't need to wait for your call. I'll just call you every Tuesday at 3:30. You never miss an order. That's great. Or, I have a truck coming to your neighborhood tomorrow. Let's put something on it. What do you want on your truck? All very interesting. What else can we do? Well, people don't really want paint. People want their wall painted. So now they're becoming the Uber of wall painting in India. They know a lot of painters. They know a lot of contractors. You say, Asian Paints, paint that wall this color next Thursday, and it magically happens. Great industry, right? What are they doing now? They won't just paint the wall, they'll move the wall for you. They are becoming the Uber of home renovations in India. And by the way, why stay in India? They know what they're doing. They're in 17 countries now. So for the most boring industry in the world to do something this exciting, they went from selling and paint 13 different ways in 13 different regions to being an integrated supplier of paint, painting services, renovation services, and other services in 17 countries. If they can do it, you can do it. Okay? But what they did is they did it with the 2x2. They not only did the technology part, but they were constantly pushing with the leadership, driving the vision forward, saying, what else can we do? What else can we do? By the way, I'm a business professor, so I had to give you a 2x2. It's the way that all business professors talk, right? Business professors that hang with economists, we run numbers also. And so what we did here is these are the companies that, how a company in this quadrant compares to the average company in the same industry across our sample, across 184 companies. And what we find is the digital and the leadership are associated with different kinds of performance, right? So here, the more digital you are, the more technology you put in and start innovating your processes, the better you are, 6 to 9% better at driving revenue through your capacity. Revenue per employee, things like that. You drive more revenue, and when you're innovating, that looks nice. But that's not talking about profit. The better that you lead, the more profitable you are. And so you run into this wonderful thing where the masters are running 9% more revenue at 26% better profit margin. If your industry profit margin is 10%, the masters are running at 12.5%. If your margin's at 4%, the masters are running at 5%. You all know how hard it is to get that extra percent on your profit margin. Okay? But look at the fashionistas driving more revenue at a lower profit margin. They don't notice they're throwing money away. And the conservatives, more profitable, but they're not driving as much revenue. They're not innovating. So if you're not innovating, how long will the profit stay there? Okay. So that's the basic. That's the 2x2 where we are going. What I thought I'd do with the rest of the presentation is just share 5 things, the 5 lessons on how you can move from here to there. How you can build a continuous transformation capability. Okay? So the way that we work at MIT is we spend a year figuring out what a problem is, how to answer a problem, and we create one page, the 2x2. We then spend another 2 or 3 years understanding that really well, and then we write a book. So the one page turns into 250 pages. And then somebody says, you have 30 minutes to present all this information. What do you do? I can yell at Daphne, but I'm not going to get any more minutes, right? And so we had to boil it down. So there's just 5 things. 5 things are all you need to do. Now, these 5 things are hard, but you have to do them, not me, okay? Vision. Where are you going? Projects. Let's start moving along. Platform. This is what everything rides on. Governance gets you going in the right direction, and in culture. How do we think about this? Vision is your direction. The projects and the culture are your engine, the momentum moving forward. The governance is your steering wheel. The platform is your vehicle. You can't do it without all those things, right? You need your vehicle to be better. You need your direction to be clear. You need your engine to be running smoothly. And you need to steer in the right direction. These 5 things will get that done for you. Let's start with vision. I am an engineer. I used to think that the organizations would work so much better if we didn't have people in them. I still think that's true. But then I got my doctorate in managing innovation, and I realized people are kind of important. But the problem is vision, right? Vision was one of those words I hated. My answer to vision whenever I was working in a company, and it's still actually kind of when the president of MIT says things, I just kind of said, oh, vision, let me just put my head down, and maybe that vision will go away. And often it does, right? And so that's usually a good bet. I did not believe in vision until I really started doing this research. This is one of the most powerful levers you've got, and we don't pay as much attention to it as we should. So what do I mean by vision? It's got to come from the top, because the best visions are going to connect pieces of your organization. But the problem is, not the problem, the opportunity, you can decide where the top is. Is the top your CEO level? Is the top your major business units? Is the top just supply chain or human resources? You decide where the top is, but you tend to push your vision down. It's hard to push the vision up. Because people are smart. You're not going to try to change things that you don't control. So it has to come down whatever you define. Number 2 about vision, there are a lot of bad visions out there. We will be the best company in our industry. What a bad vision. What does that mean? Or even better, you can see when there are 5 or 6 really important people in the senior team on the board of the company, and the vision is, we will make money by making our customers happy and keeping our employees happy and also following the rules, right? It's a vision by committee. Terrible. The best visions are a bumper sticker. They're 6, 7, 8 words that everybody understands. They're clear enough to set direction, clear enough to be engaging, but they don't have all the details. So for example, Nike doesn't want to sell you shoes. They want to be part of your life. They want to be part of every conversation you have around sports. Because if they're part of that conversation, they will sell you shoes and clothes and sporting equipment and many other things. So it is important to be in that conversation as it is to build the shoes. Asian paints we talked about. Rio Tinto, we want to build mines where no miner will ever get hurt again. Now, what they really want to build is mines where there will never be any miners again. That's kind of hard to tell the miners, but automation is getting better and better. So dangerous jobs are automated, and the miners do the not dangerous jobs. Okay. Dbs Bank, the joke at Dbs Bank was that DBS stood for damn bloody slow. Their vision, let's make banking joyful. If there's anything that makes banking not joyful for our customers, let's fix that. That vision engaged their people. They said, hey people, let's find 1 million hours that make our customers wait, and let's remove that 1 million hours this year. They are now over 200 million hours per year that they have eliminated, 200 million hours of waiting time. And they went from being the worst of the top 5 banks to being the top of the top 5 banks. Okay. Just with that vision and helping people go there. So the vision, number 1, it's a clean bumper sticker. Number 2, it needs to be a butterfly and not a caterpillar. It needs to help you think about being different in working, in pushing your vision. You need to be a different kind of company. You're the same company, you just have more powers. Unfortunately, when I talk to most companies, the leaders are not talking about butterflies, they're talking about fast caterpillars. And if you are in a business where your competitors can fly, it doesn't matter how fast you crawl. The vision should make you something different, not just a little bit better. Okay? So that's the vision. Next up, projects. We could talk for 2 weeks about projects, all the different things you could do. I got trained at Harvard, and so at Harvard I learned how to do 2x2s. I am at MIT now, and we're a little bit smarter. So I have a 3x3 for you. Okay. So you think about that, right? And you have customer experience operations business models. We talked about that. But it's not just about driving revenue. If you know your customers better, if you integrate your touch points, you will drive revenue. But you're also going to have more loyal customers. It's not just about digitizing your processes. It's about what do we do with that information and with those capabilities. Can we give our line workers more power? Can we make better decisions as leaders? And on a business model, yes, of course, we want to be the Uber of our industry. Actually, we want to be the profitable Uber of our industry. Those don't always go together, right? But there's an awful lot to be done here. A lot to do from just more integration, and a lot to be done with just improving our business models. So there are examples everywhere. I said I could go for 2 weeks. Let me just give you a couple examples that are really useful here. I talked to you about Dbs Bank. Caesar's Palace, their best customers, they call them whales. Okay? These are people that can happily throw away $10,000. Engage with the entertainment for $10,000 a day. Okay? And then they come back. So you think about pro sports players. Someplace you think about drug lords. Other places it might be government officials, right? So these are people that have a lot of money they don't care about, and they get good treatment. But Caesars, when you walked in and you were a whale, they used to just have somebody spend time with you all day. And now those whales are just as happy to get that personal service from their phone. The free tickets, the drinks when you need them, the extra special services you need, whatever, it's all right there. It's so good that when you step out of Caesar's Palace now and go to the Strip, it starts giving you offers to go to the Eiffel Tower ride at the Paris casino, which is another Caesar's property right down the street. Okay? It knows these. It's so good that when you are losing too much money, free dinner shows up on your phone. But it's only there for a half an hour. And they can give you a $300 or a $400 dinner, lots of wine. And the good thing about that, if you're losing, you're hungry, you're angry. If you're hungry and angry, that's bad. So now you're not hungry, you come back and you lose some more money. Okay? The fascinating thing about this, though, they would ask, they were getting this happened because of stupid questions. They asked their whales, what can we do to make our service better? And the whales all said, you treat me really well, but the only way you know that is I have to stand in line over there. If I'm really important, you should know me when I walk in the door. Now that is a really stupid request. They have a lot of whales and they have a lot of casinos. But some engineer found a trick. When you land at the airport, you press the button and you say, I'm here, I just landed. And 15 minutes later, you get to the casino, and they have your picture, they have your preferences. You step out of your big stretch limo. Oh, Mr. Westerman, good to see you. We haven't seen you since 3 weeks ago. Here you go. They know you when you walk in the door. So another thing to think about is those stupid questions. Operational processes, we talked about Asian paints and how those operational improvements led to customer experience improvements, led to new business models. So I don't need to say much more on that. And in business models, what's happening with business models is that big bundles are becoming small bundles. Ownership is becoming borrowing or renting, right? These platform plays are starting to take over. So if you make money as a gatekeeper in your industry, you want to be really, really careful about that. Because taxi companies were gatekeepers. Stockbrokers were gatekeepers. Real estate agents are gatekeepers. They're all under threat by somebody. Newspapers were gatekeepers for classified ads. They're all under threat. So what you want to think about is how can we make our business model better in different ways? For example, Tokyo Marine Insurance. My sister, I adore my sister, but she is just a terrible, terrible driver. Yeah. So when she comes to town and asks to borrow my car, it makes me very, very nervous. So like me, I could have, I didn't, but people would go to their insurance agents and say, can I just have like 2 days of insurance while my sister is in town? And the insurance agents all said, that's such a stupid idea. We sell insurance by the year. Or say, I'm going to be skiing for a week. Can I have 7 days of accident insurance within 20 miles of the skiing hill? Stupid, stupid request. You can do that now. Tokyo Marine can do it. There's a company that will only give you casualty insurance when you're outside your apartment. There are all kinds of things happening now, where the big bundles are turning into small bundles, or it becomes much more location-based, much more sensitive. Daimler trucks, you're driving down the road, the check engine light goes on your car. That happens, right? You know that light, repair needed? Daimler has it now that when that light goes on, you call Daimler, Daimler calls your engine, they figure out what's wrong, and they call you. And they say two choices. Either it's not really a big thing, let's find a time to go change that filter. Or they say, big problem, your truck is going to explode in 20 miles, but 10 miles down the road, we have everything waiting for you, and you will be completely done in 1 hour. That's a little bit different from the light goes on, you lose your car for the whole day, and then you find out you spent $1,000 for something that wasn't really important, right? And I'm sorry I'm saying dollars instead of euros and miles instead of kilometers, but can you translate? Okay. New business model came out. So these business models, from bundling and unbundling, from being much more location and time sensitive, or from just getting information from one place to another, these are tremendous opportunities for any company. That doesn't mean you're the Uber of your industry. It just means you're doing your same thing you do, just doing it better. So if I could give you one point here, though, too many people think that digital is about customer experience. And I'm finding more and more that digital is about operations. That while operational transformation is boring, it often becomes that hidden advantage that makes everything else work well. Asian Paints, Dbs Bank, Procter & Gamble, the list can go on and on and on. You fix operations, and that allows you to start innovate in other ways. And so if you are doing operational stuff, if you're focusing only on customer experience, think about operations. And if you're doing operations, think beyond operations to say, how can that make other things work better? So that's projects. We've got 3 more. I'll do them quickly. Ready? Platform. The platform is your processes and your systems. In most companies, these are not very well defined. In the best companies, they are very clean. You can build on them very nicely. I found the best company, I finally found the best picture I can find for the platforms in most companies. Are you ready for it? How does that look? Does that look like your company? You understand what this means, right? You can't innovate on a platform like this. And so what I want you to do is technical people, you'll understand this. Business people, ask your technical people to do this. If your platform looks like spaghetti, turn it into lasagna. Okay? Nice, clean layers of functions. So everything's pretty well organized. Then turn it into ravioli. Nice little chunks of stuff that you can move around, right? Now, like I said, technical people, you understand what I'm saying, and you're laughing at me right now. Business people, just ask your technical people, and then they will laugh at you instead. But that's where you want to go. Okay? By the way, you have to do this with your technical people. I have not yet seen a company that does digital without its IT people in the conversation. Sometimes the IT people can lead. Sometimes the IT people need a little bit of help to be faster and more digital, but you can't leave them out of the conversation. Okay? That leads to governance. Who's in charge? Who owns the vision? Who makes some decisions on what starts and what doesn't? Who makes decisions on how you share, where you're sharing, and where you don't have to share? That's governance. And unfortunately, in most companies, the word governance, people, as soon as you say governance, people think bureaucracy. Okay? It doesn't have to be that way. If you do governance right, governance will actually allow you to be more innovative. Governance will allow you to be more efficient and keep the rest of the business happy. Okay? So what does that look like? Instead of focusing on governance on control and preventing bad things from happening, you want to focus governance on sharing and coordination. If you go and you want to start doing something here in France, and they did something really interesting in Italy, rather than doing it all over again, maybe you can start with Italy and build on that. Okay? That's what I mean by the sharing. And the coordination hey, if we're attacking in a global company, if we're attacking a big problem, maybe you do a piece of it, and you do a piece of it, and you do a piece of it, and then it all comes together. That's what we mean as sharing and coordination. It can be done in an agile and a fast way if you do it right. If you do it wrong, it becomes painful, bureaucratic, and everybody avoids it. So that's governance, right? Who's in charge? How do we do this sharing and coordination? Most often we see somebody in charge of digital, they have some resources. Each unit also, or group of units, might have somebody in charge of them. And there's a lot of coordination that goes back and forth here. I want this, well, try to think about it a different way. Or, hey, who wants to do something? Oh, I want to do it. Okay? So that's the digital governance. It's hard, but it's very doable. But it starts by rethinking why you are doing governance. It's about sharing and coordination, not control. And then we get to the last one, culture. I have a new article out in Sloan Management Review about how traditional companies can get digital culture. You don't need to do everything that Google and Amazon does. In fact, you can't do everything that Google and Amazon does. But there are some ways you can get at that. I will not talk about that today because that's another hour-long session. I will point to you there and that article. But let me tell you what you can do first for culture. Everybody in the room, you've heard me say it over and over again, and this is what you can do as a leader to get there. The first thing you should do, if you do nothing else, is to push people to be better. Don't accept the idea that things are good the way they are and they will stay good the way they are. Constantly be saying, what else can we do? What else can we do? Every time you make an improvement, you say, okay, now let's push it, just like Asian Paints did, DBS, all these companies. So the first thing you should do with culture is read my new article in the Sloan Management Review. The second thing you should do is start getting your people to be dissatisfied. And what do I mean by dissatisfied? I don't mean really dissatisfied. You want them happy with their job. You want them dissatisfied with how the company works. You want them always saying, why do we sell insurance by the year? Why is it so hard to get this information from here to here? Why can't we recognize those casino people when they walk in the door? What else can we do? And then you help them, right? So if you can get your people asking, what else can you do? That takes you a long, long way to getting the culture that you want. And then you, like I said, then there's this article that can give you more detail on how to start building that culture out, and I can do that too. Okay. So listen, I want to wrap this up, and I want to talk about one more thing, but we can take a question or two in between. Technology is moving fast. It's doing Moore's Law when we are moving along this world. You have to manage differently. You will not keep up with the technology. But what you can do is put the capability in place so that you can continuously transform and use whatever technology is available to do that next piece. So your company doesn't need a digital strategy. What you need is the ability to transform over and over again, and then digital will make your strategy better every time. So how do you do it? Start with a vision, where you're going. Build those projects as the engine. Work on a clean foundation or fix the foundation. Steer well. And when you get where you're going, push that vision farther and farther. That will start to change your culture. And then the better you get with your culture, the easier all this stuff becomes every step of the way. Okay? So you got it? 250 pages in a half hour. Okay. Why don't we take a question or two, and then I want to come back and share something else. Are we taking questions here or somewhere else?
Yeah, you can take. Yeah, this is your floor.
Okay. But how do you start building the necessary leadership skills for digital transformation? One is you come to MIT and you take your executive education courses, right? So that's the first one. Number two, really work with your people, because there are too many companies where you got to leadership by being careful, not by being innovative, right? So work with your company to tell them what it means to be more visionary. Work with your people to help them understand the threats that you're under and what technology can do for you. And hold your leaders accountable for at least one stretch kind of thing. That's a big step. Then, of course, you got to do all those other things. You got to teach your leaders about vision and governance and all that kind of thing. Number one, help them understand that being too risk-averse is bad. Hold them to a stretch goal. Two, train them on all those 5 things that I talked about. Okay? What else do we have? How do you see the future of companies change their process but not their product with digital? Hey, it's fine, right? That may be the answer. If you're selling, even cars are getting some digital stuff, but they're still cars, right? But there's a new digital, Tesla has invented a new way to sell cars. Certainly there are new ways to build cars. So I don't think you have to make, if you're selling physical products, if you're selling oil, there's not going to be a lot of digital oil out there, but there's a lot of opportunity to do digital anyway. Okay? So that's that. What are some other questions out there? Okay, best practice to create a company environment where digital is encouraged. 5 things. Okay, do those 5 things. What do you recommend for a couple with BTOC? What's that mean? Oh, B2C. Okay, in various parts of the world. How localized should the customer experience be? This is really interesting. Your country managers will tell you it has to be localized at the country level. They are wrong. Okay? What I see as kind of a best practice in companies right now is that there are 2 or 3 different kinds of archetypes for people, and you can build out that functionality in one place and reuse it. Now, some countries may find that there's a different angle on it, right? You may need to be a little more high touch in parts of Asia than you would in France, or things like that, right? Or maybe you've got more old customers here and more young customers here. But what you do is you build the core that works, and you build the outside surface to be local. So banks all around the world now are coming up with sets of products that you can offer in each country, and each country decides which products it wants to offer. But if they offer those products, the back end is the same. You can imagine that kind of thing. Now, fashion might be different, some others. Start with the core, build the veneer on the outside. That tends to be the way these things are working better. How do you disrupt leaders into transformation? I think we've been talking about some of this stuff. So let me ask, I don't want you to you won't raise your hand. I'm assuming you're trying to get your boss to change. Is that what this is about? That's hard. That's hard. Tell some scary stories. If you're in a bank, talk about what's happening to margins in banks, right? Or talk about what some of these other ones are doing. If you are in something that looks anything like media and entertainment or newspapers, say, let's not be them, right? So the scary stories can be really helpful, because then you can say, how stupid do you want to look next year? Right? Let's avoid looking so stupid. Let's avoid throwing this money away. The other thing that you can do is build a compelling story of something that's better. And you can start by building a compelling story. Even better if you have like an innovation team, work with the innovation team to test that thing out. So for example, selling insurance, within 20 miles of the ski hill, the innovation group started that. They proved it could work, and then they built the products. So how do you influence your boss? The same way you always influence your boss. You make it in their interest to change. And you want to do the same thing with digital. Okay. All right, I want to just try, what are we going to learn about next? Well, we learned a lot of things. Where we're going now with this stuff is, first of all, the culture. We're doing a lot more on culture, on how can you build this culture. So starting on that article, we are doing a lot of diagnostics and other case studies and others to build out more on how you change the culture. The other one, I just want to take a minute or two and share a couple slides with you on what I'm doing right now, what I'm spending most of my time on. Okay? I've been studying what jobs will be left when the robots take over. I've been doing that for a few years now. I've also been working with companies on digital transformation to actually get rid of those jobs and change the way things work, right? MIT has this slogan, you've probably heard it already, mens et manus. Daphne, did you share that slogan yet? Mens et manus? Oh, okay, she'll tell you later.
Some people know.
Mind and hand. And the reason MIT got created is because another really good university 200 years ago in Boston did all the mind and none of the hand. And we were created to be the practical university. And we got pretty good at it, right? I've been studying what's happening to jobs. I've been working with companies to change their companies. A lot of people are being affected by this. A lot of people are losing their jobs. A lot of people are nervous about their jobs. A lot of people are keeping their jobs, but they need to learn new things pretty quickly. If you are doing routine work, you are in trouble. If your kids are doing routine work, they'd better start doing something different. And so what I'm doing with the last year, I'm going to do it for a few more years, is try to change the way we think about workforce learning in MIT and around the world. How can we get the right skills to the right people at the right time, at scale? Now, what does that mean? That means giving really good advice to people so they can make good decisions whether to stay in this job or whether to move to other jobs and what it might get. What skills would you need to move to this role? I've just learned that an accountant, a company I know just laid off a bunch of accountants. They've tried to take care of their people. They tried to find them accounting jobs other places. It turns out a lot of these accountants will be very good cybersecurity analysts. They do a lot of checklists and reviews and audit processes. You do that in cybersecurity. So can we give good advice to people anywhere around the world? Can we change the learning so the learning comes to them instead of them going to the learning? I have a new article coming out in Harvard Business Review on what it means to be the right kind of chief learning officer. And that's very much changing. HR needs to change the way they work. And in credentialing, can we recognize skills you have if you didn't get them from a university? So that's the three problems we are trying to solve. And what we're doing now is things like, for example, where are skills going? Which skills are growing? Which skills are shrinking? We're doing work here on the social skills, the human skills you need to thrive in an environment. It turns out MIT graduates a lot of really smart people who just have really bad people skills. Who knew, right? And a lot of places are like that. And most everybody has some people skills they need to work on. So this is a new framework of the people skills you need, and we're starting to build courses and diagnostics and tools to get better at that. If you want to do a workshop on this in your company, we'll be happy to do that, to help people discover these and learn about them. That's that article is coming out now on the Chief Learning Officer. These are workshops and hackathons. We just did a hackathon to connect schools and workplaces to say, how can we make that connection work better? We're going to do a hackathon in 2 or 3 months on the future of career advice and get together with students and develop some tools. And then last but not least, we're working, and this is with the UN, with government agencies and others, to push this conversation along to get it better. So the digital transformation, I would love to talk to you about that. But if you're doing anything that you think about workforce, about getting your skills better to your people, realigning the way you assess and promote and train your people, I'd also love to talk to you about that. Okay? So I am out of time. So with that, I just want to thank you. I want to thank you for listening. I want to thank you for laughing at my jokes. And I hope we can have some more conversations.